Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back. This is our ninth session, and in this session we're going to talk about classification and short answer questions. These two types of questions are not very common in IELTS reading, but they sometimes appear in the test, and in today's session we're going to discuss and talk about them. Before starting the course, again, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and if you like this video, please like it. And if you have any questions, you can ask your questions in the comment sections. Now, let's start our today's session. Okay, classification questions. Classification questions are very similar to written questions. And this is our first example. In today's session, we're going to talk about the little ice age. Our passage is about ice age. Okay, now let's go to the questions. Okay, these are our questions. Now, let me turn on my pen as well. Question 23 to 26. I'm going to read the instructions carefully. Classify the following events as occurring during the medieval warm period, Little Ice Age, and modern warm period. And write the correct letter A, B, or C in boxes 23 or 26 on your answer sheet. In this case, and in classification questions, we choose keywords from questions, and at the same time, we are careful about our options. Okay, now let's choose our keywords. Many Europeans started farming abroad. Okay, many Europeans started farming abroad, and our questions are not very long, and they are quite short, and we can read the whole sentence. The cutting down of trees began to affect climate change. Okay, cutting down of trees. The Europeans discovered other planets. Okay, they discovered other planets. And changes took place in fishing patterns. Okay, changes took place in fishing patterns. Finding these three options would be easier than finding these. Okay, now, and as a result, we're going to look and find the medieval warm period, Little Ice Age, and modern warm period. Okay, this is our passage, and because this passage is designed for around 13 questions, and in our today's session we're going to just answer 14 questions. In order to save time, I'm going to eliminate some paragraphs. We have nothing to do with paragraphs, and these three paragraphs, D, E, and F, are enough for us to answer our today's questions. Okay, you can scan and find the options: medieval warm period, Little Ice Age, modern warm period, and in the real test, because you will answer other questions as well, I'm sure that you would come across these options as well. In this session, we're gonna scan and scheme to find these options. Okay, this is our last paragraph, and now let's find one of these options. Global temperatures began to rise slowly after 1850 with the beginning of a modern warm period. Okay, modern warm period. I found a modern warm period, and we're going to read around modern warm period carefully. There was a vast migration from Europe by land-hungry farmers and the others, to which the famine caused by the Irish potato blight contributed, to North America, Australia, New Zealand, and Southern Africa. And as you see, we had in our questions something about farm. Okay, many Europeans started farming abroad, and as you see, migration from Europe by land-hungry farmers and others, to which the famine caused by the Irish potato blight contributed, to North America, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. So this is a modern warm period. Modern warm period is C, and C is our answer for question 23. Okay, now let's continue. Millions of hectares of forest and woodland fell. Okay, millions of hectares of forest and woodland fell before the newcomers' access between 1850 and 1890, as intensive European farming methods expanded across the world. The unprecedented land clearance. It is something to do with cutting down trees. Cutting down trees could be paraphrased with unprecedented land clearance. Released vast quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, triggering for the first time humanly caused global warming. Okay, humanly caused global warming. The cutting down of trees began to affect the climate, and as a result, this option is also related to modern warm period, and our answer is C. Okay, now let's go to our next paragraph. Paragraph E. It is known as the little ice age. Okay, this is little ice age, and this paragraph is about little ice age. Little ice age was one of our options, and because the question 23 and the question 24 related to medieval warm period, I can eliminate this option because question 25 and 26 each would be about either a little ice age or modern warm period. Okay, now let's go back to our previous slide. Cooling began in Greenland and the Arctic in about 1200 as the Arctic ice pack spread southward. Norse voyagers to the west were routed into the open Atlantic, then ended altogether. Storminess increased in the North Atlantic. Colder, much weather descended on Europe between 1315 and 1319 when thousands perished in a continent-wide famine. Okay. By 1400, the weather had become decidedly more unpredictable and stormier, with sudden shifts and lower temperatures that culminated in the cold decades of late 16th century. Fish were vital. Okay, fish is very important, and it was one of our keywords. And again, it depends on you. Some people choose to just scan and skim in order to find the keywords. For example, fish. And as you see, we had fishing patterns in question 26. But some people prefer to read some sentences of the paragraph. Personally, I prefer to read some sentences because it helps me to answer questions. But it could be different from person to person. Just practice at home and test your ability. If you are good with skimming and scanning, try this method. And if you can't find the relevant part of the text, then you can just skim and read some sentences of the paragraph. Okay, 16th century fish were a vital commodity in growing towns and cities, where food supplies were a constant concern. Dried cod, this is a kind of fish, and herring were already the staples of the European fish trade, but changes in water temperatures forced fishing fleets to work further offshore. And as you see, there is a change in fishing patterns. And we don't need to read the rest of the paragraph and the little ice age. Okay, let's go to the questions. Changes took place in fishing pattern. This is about little ice age. And as a result, Europeans discovered other planets. Our answer would be A. I eliminated this option wrongly. I should have eliminated option C, modern warm period. These are a little bit close to each other, and you might confuse just like as me. Be careful about them. Okay, but I'm gonna check question 25. The European discovered other planets and medieval warm period. Okay, now let's go back to our previous slide. Okay, medieval warm period. We have here medieval warm period, roughly 1900 to 1200. Okay. During these 3 centuries, Norse voyagers from northern Europe explored northern seas, settled Greenland, and visited North America. Okay, it was not a time of uniform warmth for them, as always since the Great Ice Age. Now that's it. In these two sentences, you can find our answer. Okay, this is the end of this example, and as you see, these questions are very similar to matching questions, but in matching questions, we just selected keywords from our questions, and we had sometimes boxes and different kinds of forms. In this type of questions, I recommend you to look at both of them, your categories and your options. It will help you to find the relevant part of the text more easily and focus more on the questions. Okay, let's go to the next slide, and our second type of questions, short answer questions. Short answer questions are again not very common in IELTS reading, but they sometimes appear, and they are not very challenging questions to answer, and they usually appear in the passage 1. Okay, I have a tip for you. Now let's read this tip. This task requires you to answer some direct questions which begin with question words such as what, which, or where. Question words are very important. When we have where, we're going to look for a place. When we have when, we're going to look for a time. And what or which, we're going to look for something. Okay? You will be told the maximum number of words to write. And of course, we're going to read our instructions very carefully because it's important to stick to the word limit. The questions have to be answered with words taken from the text and are in the same order as the information appear in the text, and questions are in order, and it makes it easy to answer. As with similar tasks, it is useful to underline the keywords in the questions and predict what kind of information is missing. Reading passage 1. You should spend around 20 minutes on question 1 to 13, which are based on reading passage 1 below. Okay. William Henry Parkin, the man who invented synthetic dyes. Okay. Now, I read our title and I'm heading to our questions. Question 8 to 13. Answer the questions below. Choose no more than 2 words for the passage for each answer. And our word limit is 2. Write your answers in boxes 8 to 13 on your answer sheet. Okay, now let's start and read 2 of our questions. Before Perkins' discovery, with what group in society was the color purple associated? Purple is our keyword, and we're going to look for a group, some specific group. Okay, and question 9. What potential did Parkin immediately understand that his new dye had? His new dye had, and we're going to look for potential. Okay, now let's go back to our passage. And because this passage is designed for other questions types as well, I'm going to give you a clue. Just forget about these paragraphs. These paragraphs are not for our questions. And let's just start from here. Okay. He finally produced a deep purple solution. We found purple here, and we're going to answer our questions. Proving the truth of the famous scientist Louis Pasteur's words, chance favors only the prepared mind. Perkin saw the potential of his unexpected find. Let's go to the questions. Before Perkins' discovery, we're going to look for a group and also a potential. Okay, now let's go to the passage and answer our questions. Historically, textile dyes were made from such natural sources as plants and animals' excretions. Some of these, such as the granular mucus of snails, are difficult to obtain and outrageously expensive. Okay, indeed, the purple color is our keyword, extracted from a snail, was once so costly that in society, it was another our keyword. At the time, only the rich could afford it. Only the rich could afford it. As you see, we have to look for a group, and that's not very difficult to find. The rich is our answer for question 8. And if you write the rich or rich in the answer sheet, both are correct. Now let's go to the second one. Further natural dyes tended to be muddy in hue and fade quickly. It was against his breakthrough that Perkins' discovery was made. Perkin quickly grasped that his purple solution could be used to color fabric, thus making it the world's first synthetic dye. Realizing the importance of his breakthrough, he lost no time in patenting it. But perhaps the most fascinating of all Perkins' reactions to his find was his nearly instant recognition that the new dye had commercial possibilities. New dye had commercial possibilities and instant recognition. Let's go to the questions. What potential did Perkin immediately could be paraphrased with instantly understand his new dye had, and potential, this is commercial possibilities, and this is our answer for question 9. And as you see, these questions are even easier than sentence completion questions. Okay, now let's go to the next slide and next set of questions. What was the name finally used to refer to the first color Perkin invented? We're going to look for a name, okay? Question 11, what was the name of the person? We're going to look for a name of a person and name of a color. Consulted before setting up his own dye works. Okay, let's go back to the passage. Harkin originally named his dye purple. It's cherry purple. It's something related to the color. Okay, Harkin originally, but it is originally, but we're not gonna look for its original name. Finally used to refer to the first color. Okay, but it is later became commonly known as mauve. Okay, this is mauve. Later became known as mauve, from the French for the plant used to make the color violet. Okay, this is our answer for question 10. He asked advice of the Scottish dye worker owner Robert Fuller, and he asked advice from Robert Fuller. This is our answer for question 11. We assured him that manufacturing the dye would be well worth it if the color remained fast. Okay, and the cost was relatively low. Now let's go back to the questions. The answer to these two questions as well. In what country did Perkins' newly invented color first became fashionable? We're going to look for a name of the country. According to the passage, which disease is now being targeted by researchers using synthetic dyes? We're going to look for a name of a disease and is not targeted. Okay, let's go back to the passage and look for the names of countries. I'm going to key and find the names of the countries in these of London's gas street lighting. The dye works began producing the world's first synthetically dyed material. Okay, now let's continue. Okay, I found France, and I'm going to read around France carefully. The company received a commercial boost from the Empress Eugenie of France when she decided the new color flattered her. Very soon the mauve was the necessary shade for all the fashionable ladies in that country, and that country refers to France, and France is the answer of question 12. Okay, not to be outdone, England's Queen Victoria also appeared in public wearing a mauve gown. Okay, now let's go and look for a name of a disease. I'm going to scan and find the names of the disease in our last paragraph. Okay, the dyes also became vital to medical research in many ways. For instance, they were used to stain previously invisible microbes and bacteria, allowing researchers to identify such bacilli as tuberculosis, cholera, and anthrax. Artificial dyes continue to play a crucial role today, and in what would have been particularly pleasing to Perkin, their current use is in the search for vaccine against malaria. Okay, we have a current use, and current use could be paraphrased with now, and the answer for question 13 is malaria. Okay, we finished answering these questions as well, and as you see, these questions are not challenging to answer and even easier than sentence completion questions, but they appear less in the IELTS reading test, but we talked about them and the strategies that you should use in order to answer to these questions. Okay, now let me turn off my pen as well, and it is the end of session 9. I hope it would be useful for you. If you have any questions, you can ask your questions in the comment sections. I will answer your questions. And if you like this video, please like it. And again, I would appreciate if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube. In the next session, we're going to do a complete test and talk about which sets of questions to choose first, and all of the tips and strategies we discussed by now. We're going to review all of them and have a very important session. See you in the next session. Goodbye.